Money in the Bank 2013 just concluded just a mere minutes ago, and I'm here today, UnderTheWire85, Ross Williamson, with my Money in the Bank 2013 review. I did my predictions about Wednesday night, and there were 7 matches plus the kickoff show. I'm going to go through all the matches and my overall grade for this pay-per-view. So I hope you enjoy. Again, UnderTheWire85 or at Ross Williamson is where you can find the review for Money in the Bank 2013. It was at the Wells Fargo Arena Center, whatever you want to call it, in Philadelphia. A lot of the major cities, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, they're loud, they're proud, and they love coming out to these events. I think the tally was like 18,000 fans came out for this packed house, and they were really involved with the matches they cared about, which is what they should be, and just more proof that the WWE, for the most part, knows what they're doing when they pick out venues for certain pay-per-views. They're going to be at the Barclays Center for Raw on Monday, in which I've been told Brock Lesnar is going to show up. Did he make an appearance at this pay-per-view? You'll find out in just a second. Money in the Bank Kickoff, which was seen on YouTube or however else you were getting it. I watched it on YouTube for the live stream. The Usos, Jimmy and Jey Uso, challenging 2 members of The Shield, the tag team champions, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And of course, I'll go through each match. Apparently, they didn't give a time to the kickoff show. I think it was like a 15 to 20 minute match, which was great because it was a tag team match, and quite frankly, all 4 of these guys are talented. The Shield came out pretty weak to start this match. The Usos really surprised me, and the announcers couldn't stop talking about how great the Usos looked. Finally, after the Usos dominated about half the match, the Shield finally got their gears working, and of course the teamwork of both teams really made for a very intriguing match. Great storytelling, good back and forth. Came down to the end, it looked like the Usos were going to win. You had whichever one it was, Jimmy or Jay, whichever one was legal. I mean, at first they had face paint on one side or the other, then they had face paint tonight. By the way, they were wearing like pink and green outfits. I mean, I know the 80s are back, but good Lord, those were bad. So, whichever one of them came off the top with the high splash or the frog splash or whatever they're calling it, Shield kick out. Seth Rollins isolates one of the Usos, and Roman Reigns gets a blind tag in and spears that Uso. 1, 2, 3, your winners, and still the WWE Tag Team Champions, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, The Shield. Great match. I'm more impressed with the Usos than The Shield in this match, even though The Shield are still great. I would not be surprised if the Usos stay relevant and probably get another title shot soon, because the tag team division, once again, is lacking in talent after they tried to build it up, and now they've like broken up half the teams that they built like 6 months ago. So I would expect another match, especially since this one was so good, for the kickoff to Money in the Bank. That led to the first match of the night, which was the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match for a World Heavyweight Championship contract. It was between Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, Dean Ambrose, Fandango, Jack Swagger, Damian Sandow, and Antonio Cesaro. So this match started off, of course, there have been feuds between a lot of these people. Fandango and Barrett have been feuding for a while. Cesaro and Swagger had been feuding with Sandow and Rhodes, and then Dean Ambrose with the Shield. He's been feuding with everybody. So, this is the match I was most looking forward to. It did not disappoint. There were some things that carried over into the Raw ladder match for the WWE title that, again, when you don't have a ton of high flyers in the match, you end up, even though it's a spot fest, you end up having the same spot like 5 times in a match. The one that was evident in this one was we're going to set up a ladder in the corner and we're going to back suplex forced everybody into it, which is fine. I mean, everybody did their own little variation of it, but it was essentially the same spot. We didn't have any real high-flying spots from the ring outside of the ring, or at least in this match, there really wasn't. Very competitive. This was the hardest match to pick. By the way, I did pick the Shield in my predictions page, so I'm starting off the night 1-for-1. I did pick Wade Barrett to win the match, and what's really funny is if you watch the predictions page, it almost went the way I thought it was going to. At the end of the match, Cody Rhodes gave Crossroads to like 4 people. He got cut open at some point, which, as you know, WWE, there's no chair shots to the head. There's no, they're very, basically, if there's blood, somebody legitimately got cut open, and it was not supposed to happen. That happened twice on this pay-per-view. It happened once in this match and once in the Raw ladder match. They don't plan on that stuff anymore, so when it happens, it is legitimately an accident. There's no blading, there's none of that anymore. So Cody Rhodes was cut open. It was evident on his face. I don't remember if he got cut in the forehead or the top of the head or wherever it was. He was cut open. End of the match, which of course it was a spot fest, but that's what you expect in a ladder match. All 7 guys brought it. Even Fandango had a spot where he did his little leg drop from the outside on Wade Barrett that was just vicious. So all 7 guys looked great, and it showcased what these 7 guys can do. By the way, Dean Ambrose had a skinning the cat while Cesaro and Swagger were holding a ladder. Now, it took him twice to do it, but that was still impressive in itself. And then he got thrown out of the ring, and that was pretty much the end of Dean Ambrose. End of the match, Cody Rhodes is climbing to the top, and there's only 2 guys that really weren't knocked out at that point, and that was Damien Sandow and Wade Barrett. I guess Wade Barrett was still on the floor. Damien Sandow comes up, shoves Cody Rhodes off the top of the ladder, and unhooks it. Your winner of the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match, the intellectual savior of the masses, Damien Sandow. You're welcome. I know. Horrible impression. I don't care. I'm pleased. I'm very pleased. I told everyone in my predictions page, as long as it wasn't Fandango or Jack Swagger, I was going to be thrilled. This now sets up Damien Sandow with a World Heavyweight title match whenever he wants, and it sets up Cody Rhodes turning face, which has been long overdue. So, great showing by these 7 guys. I know there was a fear out there that with 7 heels in a match, the crowd would not know what to do. And with 7 faces in a match, it's kind of hard to do. But when you have guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and Sheamus and guys that have been over, it's a lot easier because there's a lot more crowd interaction. I'm not saying the crowd was dead for this match, but there was more life in some of the other matches. I was still very pleased, and I'm happy that Damien Sandow is getting a title shot and getting pushed. So, Damien Sandow in the surprise of the night at that point. I picked Wade Barrett, but I'm happy Damien Sandow won. Second match of the night was Curtis Axel defending his Intercontinental Championship against The Miz. And the crowd was basically dead for this match, as I expected. The Miz, at one point, had the figure 4 on twice. Curtis Axel didn't tap out. And then Curtis Axel did his finish that, I guess the best way I can describe it is, it's a cross between Dean Ambrose's finish and Cody Rhodes' finish. He kind of turns your head and gives you like a short DDT, almost. Like, think when Rob Van Dam gets pedigreed by Triple H, it's like at that angle. If anybody needs to see the violent nature of Rob Van Dam getting pedigreed by Triple H or Shawn Michaels or however you want to... It looks bad. So Curtis Axel retains the Intercontinental Championship. That is who I picked. Can we please get The Miz off of title pictures? He's just not interesting. And Curtis Axel we'll see what type of future he has. So at this point, I'm 2 for 3. AJ Lee defending her Divas Championship against Caitlyn. Much to my chagrin, Big E Langston did not come out in a Hawaiian suit or shirt. He just came out in his ring gear. Which makes sense because at one point in the match, there was a spot where Caitlyn tossed AJ Lee off the top rope and Big E Langston caught her. Not saying Big E Langston couldn't catch her with a suit on and not his ring gear on, but I guess there was a point to it. Caitlyn, I guess her elbow got hurt at some point. I don't remember if it was on SmackDown or a few weeks ago. So she speared AJ and couldn't capitalize because her elbow had been attacked the entire match. And then AJ ends up getting her submission on, and after about a minute of it being on, Caitlyn taps out. So your winner and still Divas Champion, AJ Lee, making me 3 for 4. Ryback versus Chris Jericho in what can only be described as Jericho wasn't in a Money in the Bank match, neither was Ryback, and they wanted to give them a match. Fantastic. Chris Jericho, in my opinion, carried this match, but surprisingly, Ryback actually didn't look terrible in this match. I did step away for about a minute during this match, because this and the Divas match were probably the two matches I was least excited for. But Ryback held his own. Ryback tried to do Shell Shock at least twice, couldn't do it. Chris Jericho couldn't get him in the Walls of Jericho, and at the end of the match, Ryback basically avoids the Lion Salt and then rolls him up for the 1-2-3. So, as I predicted, they're not ready to completely bury Ryback, or Cryback, however they're calling it. So Ryback rules, making me 4 for 5. Then there was the most disappointing match of the night, which I was afraid was going to happen, even though these two can put on a very good segment together. That being Alberto Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler came out in an orange tank top, since all of his shirts are brightly colored. Huge reaction from the crowd for Ziggler. And absolutely no reaction for Alberto Del Rio. Which is unfortunate because Alberto Del Rio, although talented, they're still trying to make him talk, and he's just not over. He's a good wrestler, though. These two actually were having a pretty decent match. And then, all of a sudden, AJ Lee comes out, which again, we haven't really seen AJ Lee and Dolph Ziggler together since Dolph Ziggler lost his title at Payback. On TV, they've been kind of separate, because AJ's got her thing with Caitlyn going, with Big E Langston involved, and Dolph Ziggler's got his thing with Alberto Del Rio. So AJ Lee comes out, and even the announcers were like, what is she doing out here? So AJ Lee comes out, distracts Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler tries to get her to leave. And then, as soon as Alberto Del Rio apparently brought up his knee pad, which, unless it's made of metal, you'd think he'd do more damage with his bare knee. I don't know. AJ Lee randomly runs in the ring and hits Del Rio with the Butterfly Divas belt. And Dolph Ziggler's disqualified. Your winner by disqualification and still World Heavyweight Champion, Alberto Del Rio. Well, okay then. I'm, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now 4 for 6 after that match. So I've lost because of the hardest match on the card to pick and a disqualification that made no sense. Because they've basically already broken up Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee. It just hasn't happened with the two characters yet. Whatever. Just very deflating. And it didn't help that the next match was the WWE title match between John Cena and Mark Henry. Which Cena gets booed, Mark Henry gets cheered. Mark Henry, for as much as people like what he's doing, is still just about as limited as John Cena. The spot that was overused in this match was John Cena going for the AA like 4 times. Mark Henry beats him up, beats him up, beats him up, beats him up. The only thing John Cena really does is go for the AA like 4 times. And then, just as Mark Henry thinks he's going to win, he gets put in the... I don't even know what they're calling. I guess they're just calling it the STF, which is what it was before. It was just the STFU before. Mark Henry gets out of it once and then doesn't get out of it a second time. So your winner and still WWE Champion, John Cena. The champ is here. And finally, so I was right on that one, so now I'm 5 for 7. The Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. The returning Rob Van Dam, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, Christian, and Randy Orton. There was no replacement for Kane. There was no Brock Lesnar. There was no Wyatt family. However, this match was completely over at that point because we saw 2 horrendous matches before it. So, CM Punk, huge ovation in Philadelphia. Daniel Bryan, huge ovation. Even Sheamus got some love. Randy Orton got some love. Christian, there's a reason why they asked you out second, because they had Rob Van Dam come out first, and he got a huge ovation. Match starts, they all attack Rob Van Dam, then they all attack Sheamus, and great storytelling in this match. I have to tell you, this was match of the night. It was. Let's see here. Christian was taken out pretty early in this match. He was pretty much a non-factor for most of it. By the way, there was a spot in this match where all 6 guys were on 2 ladders, and Randy Orton took a really bad fall, and the medical team rushed over to him to make sure that he wasn't injured. And after the replay, I was like, oh no, something happened to his leg or his knee buckled or something. Nope, he was fine. He got in the ring later. So Christian was basically a non-factor. So we had... Oh, and then Rob Van Dam was taken out for about half the match. So then this series of events is what happened. We had Sheamus go for the belt, or I'm sorry, go for the title, and somebody shoved him off the top of the ladder through the ladder. Remember that awful spot that Sheamus had with like Sin Cara that knocked him out for a year? He pretty much went through the ladder. That was Sheamus's night. Then Daniel Bryan's threatening to win, and he gets attacked by Curtis Axel with a chair. His night's done. CM Punk gives Curtis Axel go to sleep. Here comes Paul Heyman. Not Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman yells at an unconscious Curtis Axel, since he's going to hear any of that. CM Punk, who had already been weakened before, was climbing the ladder. Paul Heyman gets in the ring and hits CM Punk with a ladder, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the 3rd time, he cracked him open brutally. Blood all down the left side of his face. CM Punk's night is done. So we're down to 2 guys. We're down to Rob Van Dam and Randy Orton. And in my predictions page, I said Rob Van Dam would threaten, but that Randy Orton was going to win. Randy Orton goes up, gets RVD off the ladder, and RKO's him. No one else around. He climbs to the top. Your winner of the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match, the Apex Predator, Randy Orton. Oh, great way to end the night with me looking oh so smart. CM Punk, you see, I knew it was too much good to be true because they made it seem like it was going to be Daniel Bryan's match. They fooled us. Randy Orton wins the match, making me 6 for 8 on the night. So a random disqualification, which I said the face chasing the heel was possible for the Ziggler Del Rio thing, so I don't feel bad about it. And Damian Sandow winning is a nice surprise, winning the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. So 6 out of 8 for yours truly. Not bad. Not a bad pay-per-view. The 2 title matches Well, the Ziggler-Del Rio match had an awful ending. The Henry-Cena match was boring. Curtis Axel and The Miz, I could have done without. The Divas match, I will say this, it was decent. It wasn't terrible, it was decent. I don't know if they're going to have another rematch, but it was decent. The pre-show, the tag team match, was great. They should have put the Intercontinental title match on the pre-show, because the tag match should have actually been on the pay-per-view. It was that good. Both ladder matches were good. The Ryback-Chris Jericho match was not terrible. And, yeah, I've gone through everything. So, that being said, I've now watched 3 Money in the Banks in a row. The one in Chicago with CM Punk and Cena, with Daniel Bryan and Del Rio winning. That was a very good pay-per-view. Last year was in Phoenix. That was Ziggler and Cena winning the Money in the Banks. That was good. I had great seats for that event, too. And this one I watched on pay-per-view, and it was decent. They really need Curtis Axel to have a good feud in order to make it relevant. I'm surprised Dean Ambrose or The Shield didn't get involved in the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match, because they've been setting up Dean Ambrose versus Christian, so they didn't get involved. No Wyatt family and no Brock Lesnar. But we did get Paul Heyman officially turning on CM Punk. So, pretty decent pay-per-view. Tell me what you think. Raw tomorrow night should be interesting. But that has been your review of Money in the Bank 2013. If I had to give it out of 5 stars, I'd probably give it about 3.5. So, hope everybody enjoyed the pay-per-view, and check out the rest of my videos at UnderTheWire85 or Ross Williamson at YouTube. Have a good night, everybody.